Welcome to On the JOB with me, Lynn Parrish, editor of the Journal of Business. We just had a new issue come out today, and I'm sitting here with the person who wrote our lead story, Samantha Pione. How you doing, Sam?
Good. How are you?
Good, good. So Sam wrote this time about lot scarcity, for home lot scarcity. So a dearth of available land on which to build homes. And so I guess best place to start would be with you explaining that dynamic of what's going on with home lots in the Spokane area.
Well, like you said, what it comes down to is that there is a larger need for homes than there is availability for land to build homes on. Mm-hmm. And so it's causing, the lot scarcity is causing a shortage of housing, which is in turn spiking the demand and the prices for homes.
Sure, sure. So when we talk about the land, we're talking about lots that are being platted in the city. What has been the trend in that over the last few years? If I remember your story correctly, there isn't exactly a trend. It's been up and down, right?
Yeah, it has. So I do have some statistics from the past few years, and it has been up and down. So in 2014, there were 995 single-family residents that permits were issued for. So your typical home, that would be built on a site. Conversely, that year, only 700 lots were platted. And then you see that trend again in 2015. You have 1,500 permits issued for homes, and you only have 760 lots platted. And then in 2016, the lots platted did jump up to about 1,460, so 1,460. But again, the homes shot up to 1,800. And then the lots platted through the third quarter of 2017, because that's what we had the data for, was only 647 lots platted versus 1,500 permits for homes that were issued. Yeah. So, I mean, in short, we're just not able to keep up with the need for land. So
now it's important to note that that there was an inventory of lots prior to that time, but as your data shows, the number of homes is being built is consistently outpacing the number of lots that are being developed, meaning that delta is coming shortly. Yeah,
exactly. So that's the big problem, is that it's pretty much just coming down the pipe that's not gonna it's not gonna fly anymore. Fortunately, this year we have seen. I don't want to say let up, because there isn't let up, but we have seen more lots platted. I want to say just in the city last year, through the first 3 quarters, there was only 101 lots platted. And that's just for the city. So the numbers I gave you were just for the whole county, pretty much. Yeah. Well, parts of the county. Right.
So the numbers you gave were county, City of Spokane Valley, correct?
And Liberty Lake as well, I want to say. Yeah. So just for the city, there was 101 lots platted. But for the city this year, we're seeing 161. And for Spokane County, they're having 250 lots platted. And that's just through, the beginning of June. So that's really hopeful that we might see some more this year. So
yeah, that's great. Now, you had mentioned in passing that one of the effects of a shortage of lots or not as much home inventory coming onto the market is an increase in prices. What have we seen in terms of price trends on homes in the Spokane market?
Oh my goodness. What haven't we seen?
Yeah.
Well, we're not as bad as Seattle, I'll tell you that. Silver lining. Pretty much what we're seeing is how do I put this? So again, it's just the low inventory of homes for sale will in turn just spike demand prices. Sure. So I spoke with one of my sources, Scott Krajak, I believe is how you pronounce his name. And he had said that prices, just home prices, are racking up a few $1,000s. It's a big deal. So, and when I say a few thousand, I spoke to another source for a different story who said $30,000 just, and that's not all lots, of course. That's workforce shortage. That's a few other different things, but all combined together, it's just a really bad combination for a buyer in this market.
Yeah. And so average home price has gone up consistently I think we just got the numbers from the MLS, and it was I think average home price was $258,000 as of April. Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, if you compare that to the $180,000 from just 3 years ago,
2014.
So $70,000 difference. I mean, that's a big deal. So
yeah, right.
Yeah,
right. But as we've seen in the past, that can change, and it can change quite quickly. It did in 2008, although we have no reason to believe that that's what's going on. That's something that's going to happen anytime soon.
Exactly. From everyone that I've spoke to, and when I say everyone, I mean not just for this article. This has been a trend that I've been following for a long time now.
Right.
And they've all said that they expect it just to get worse and worse and worse and worse. And mortgage rates were rising as well, so that's an issue as well.
Sure. I thought one of the other interesting facts that you had in there from Scott from Viking Homes was that he talked about it not being as bad in the Tri-Cities and North Idaho. Now, it's interesting with both Spokane and Tri-Cities being in Washington State, of course, and both being subject to the Growth Management Act, but that the lot shortage they haven't seen as a company haven't seen as bad in the Tri-Cities as he says he's seen it here. So it's interesting that he had suggested that maybe it's time to revisit some of the urban growth boundaries within the Growth Management Act.
Yeah, so for the county, I believe that's not until 2025 that they'll be reassessing that. And basically, from my understanding, that's just that you can't expand. It's to cut down urban sprawl, essentially.
Yeah,
so
sure.
You need to infill before you expand out with the building.
Right.
So it's an issue.
Yeah.
In short terms, layman's terms.
2025 is a long ways away. So
it is.
We'll see how that goes. We'll see how that goes. I wanted to touch on another story before we went. You had written about the self-storage market. I thought that story was fascinating.
Yeah.
Why don't you tell us what you found about that?
Well, it's interesting. So the self-storage industry is, I would argue, directly tied to the housing industry because when you're moving, you need to store things, So, and it also affects the economy as well because if you're out buying RVs, if you're out buying boats, if you're out buying ATVs, things like that, I mean, you probably have extra money that you didn't have a while ago to store those toys, essentially, is what they were described as. Yeah. So that's a good thing. I spoke with a few different people. One that stuck out to me, I talked to Todd Beadle over with Chester Self-Storage in the Valley. And he had talked about how pretty much all the people that he keeps in touch with, including Chester Self-Storage, have seen an exponential growth in their just in their volume, their products.
Their demand.
Their demand, exactly. In the past 3 years, which lines up perfectly with the permits we've seen. So I won't give all of them, but pretty much in 2007, there was $8.2 million in storage unit permits that were issued for Spokane and Kootenai counties, adjusted for inflation. So that would be today's time. And then that dropped all the way down in 2012 to $202,000 in permit volume and only 2 permits issued. And then that rose again, and it spiked, and now we're all the way up. As of November 2017, it's going to be over $14 million dollars in permit value for that. So
a lot of units being added.
Exactly. Yeah. Yep. And Chester Self-Storage, they have 350 right now, and they're building another 70. So exactly.
Yeah. Well, good stuff. Well, if you want to check out Sam's stories, either about lot scarcity or the self-storage boom, please go to SpokaneJournal.com and give them a read. Thanks a lot, Sam.
Yeah, of course.
Talk to you soon.